Welcome back to the Project Podcast. I'm your host, Connor Lewis, and we are back with Carter Jones. And we're talking about the NBA Finals. We're talking about a lot of trades that happened over the last 3 days. Carter, how are you, man?
Doing great. I've been eating pretty well as an NBA fan with all the stuff that's been going on. The finals are great, Game 7, and then all the NBA trades have been super interesting. So,
Well, we're going to jump right into it, but I do want to shout out Carter. You have a great Instagram page going on. Can you talk us through that a little bit? Tell us a little bit about that so everyone can go follow that.
yeah, so if you want to go follow CJ Sportswire, it's kind of like my own Instagram page where I'll repost NBA trades that are happening and I'll give my own takes. I'm on TikTok as well, same username. So, I'm just on there trying to bring some more publicity to our channel, but also to myself. It kind of just gives myself some experience in the NBA world more. But I've honestly had so much fun doing it. It just keeps me updated with it. Like I had a couple of my friends over yesterday, and we were just sitting downstairs, just like NBA trades are going on, and I'd be making the post right with them, and it was just that keeps me updated, and it keeps me invested in it, and that's what I like to do. So yeah, but definitely go give it a follow, please. Thank you.
We're trying to build this brand. We're trying to build the podcast, build the Instagram, TikTok, all that. So dropping him a follow does wonders. Even one follower a day, it grows. It grows over time. But we're gonna jump right into Game 7 of the NBA. Carter, give me your big picture thoughts about Game 7 and just the overall finals because we haven't really talked about the finals at all yet.
Yeah, Game 7 in itself was just it. I don't want to say it's like a what if moment, but it kind of is in a sense because
No, it is. It
one of
is.
my topic questions that I'm going to ask people if I go around and interview them is just how much of a factor did Tyrese Haliburton's injury play? Would OKC still have won in your opinion if he didn't get injured, or do you think the Pacers would have won? And in my opinion, I think the Pacers could have got it.
Hmm.
I think he had back-to-back threes in one period, and I don't know if they were up by two or something like that, but it was right there. So that kind of answers the question for me is I think the Pacers totally could have won that game, and there it was close throughout the first half for sure, and somewhat through the third quarter. But Game 7 alone was just tough. It's unfortunate for a Pacers fan, and I think everybody got had their hopes so high for the game and expecting it to be super good, but the loss of Tyrese Haliburton really affected it. So
Yeah, I agree. It definitely is a what if moment. Yesterday I talked to Ian Steele, who's a sports reporter in Rhode Island, and he's been following the NBA very closely, especially these finals. He does the reports right after the finals happen on ABC, and
mm,
he was telling me he said that he's never really seen anything like this, and the way that the commentary shifted after the injury went down, it kind of just changed the whole game. It kind of left us a little stunned. I was definitely stunned when it happened. I watched it go down, and I just couldn't believe that. I think the biggest thing that we can take from it is that we missed out on what could have been one of the great Game 7s. It's very rare we get a Game 7 in the finals. Um, I think it's only happened 4 times in the 2000s. If I have that right, I think it's 2005, 2010, 2013, and 2016. I think those are the 4 times, and then obviously now. And we missed out on what could have been one of the great Game 7s. And I think this is a year. I said this last episode, but with Ian, we're gonna remember the loser of the finals more than the winner of the finals. I think, and that doesn't happen. I think the only time that's maybe ever happened was the 2016 Warriors, and it's just so weird because the run the Pacers went on between the. I think they were the underdogs, betting wise, in every series. And what happens if Halburton's healthy is unknown, but I I just want to say one thing about Haliburton. He hit the most threes in Game 7 despite only playing 7 minutes. And I don't know if
that's a
that
crazy
says.
stat.
I don't know. It's a crazy stat. He hit three pointers. The second highest was two, and I think it was Siakam and a couple other people, like Shea had two. But I think that sets the tone for what we could have seen from Tyrese in that Game 7 if he played the whole time. Um, and I have one stat here, and this is about the Thunder and their shooting overall. And they had 7 games these playoffs where they shot less than 30% from three as a team. So I think that shows that the Thunder were not invincible at all. They shot very poorly. Shea shot below 30% from the field in Game 7. I just it goes to show the Thunder were not an invincible team. Their defense
Hmm.
was an all-time great defense. I haven't seen a defense like this I don't even know since I don't know when. But I'm gonna let you take the floor if you want to talk about T.J. McConnell a little bit, because I think that's a big talking point that a lot of guys are talking about. So why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I might not go as far to say his Finals MVP if the Pacers win it, but if it's not him, he's top three in voting. Because
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like if you watch Game 7 alone, there was like a 3-4 minute period where he legit, like I think he scored over half of his points that he totaled that night, which I
Yeah.
think he had around like 18 or 16 points. So I mean, that's just what he does. He's just a spark plug guy, and he's not gonna light up from three. I don't know if like taken over like 100 threes in a season. Literally, like that, like he shies away from it. He like settles and just to goes for the paint, and he'll like have those amazing takes that he has. But I mean, seriously, like he was the heart and soul of the Pacers in my opinion. He just like he's an absolute workaholic, and he just worked so much. And it's unfortunate to see like a guy like that lose, who cares so much too. And like he prides himself. Like there was an interview of him. He said working hard's a talent, because if it wasn't a talent, everybody would be doing it. And that's actually really true. I feel like that can resonate with a lot of guys, like especially a lot of NBA players that are similar to him in the way they play. So, I don't know. I think that he was a very good piece, and he played way better than most people expected him to for the Pacers. So, there's a lot to say about him, but that's just like a quick sum up of him, I'd say.
Well, I call it the T.J. McConnell songs. He was an undrafted player like a decade ago. I think he came in the league in 2015, 2016, around that range. And all of a sudden, he's dropping the loudest 16 points you'll ever see. Like it seems like he can't miss some of those shots. He's driving to the rim. He's cutting across the paint almost with the ball, and he's shooting like a fadeaway, like from like 5 feet away from the rim. And it's like, how is he hitting that like every time? It feels like he couldn't miss those. And I watched Game 6, I watched Game 7 completely all the way through, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. He had like, I don't think he scored more than 20 points in the 7-game series, but it felt like he had 30 every night. Like it just did. And I don't know what it was, but when a guy steps up like that, and it usually happens in a Game 7. I mean, you think about guys like Dellavedova for Cleveland. You think about guys role players that will just step up in that Game 7, right? You think about guys like that, and McConnell, if the Pacers won, that would have been his thing. He would have been the role player that stepped up. I mean, we'll never know. And I think this opens up a better discussion about how likely it is if the Pacers ever make it back to the finals in the Haliburton era. Haliburton's out for 18 months, probably, maybe a little less. We'll see. We're gonna feel it out, but he's gonna be out for the whole next season. And if the Pacers can even be competitive, we'll see what happens there. But I don't know. What do you take of that?
Yeah, I don't know with the whole Haliburton era, like if they're gonna be able to make it back, because I was thinking to myself, the East is gonna be completely wide open for anybody that wants to take it next year. Between the Cavs having problems with who's gonna be on their team, like they're gonna have to ship away a couple guys most likely. Celtics with Tatum, Pacers with Haliburton, and then the Bucks with their whole Giannis and Dame situation. So, I would say that I was surprised in itself that they made the finals this year. That's not to discredit them to be a bad team, but I mean, you look at the previous finals matchups that we've had, and you could say Celtics and Dallas were typically I would say a better team than the Pacers were this year. And you can keep going back, and there's not many teams that are worse than the Pacers. And it's tough to say that because, I wanted them to win, obviously, and I bet a lot of people did because they were an underdog, obviously, and they went to Game 7. But realistically, I don't know, like, it seemed like more of a Cinderella run than, like, a bona fide, like, they deserve to be there type thing. So, and then the fact that Tyrese Haliburton's going to be out for as long as he is, like, they're going to have to make a lot of moves in this next season to get themselves set up to make another run at the championship. But I don't see that happening, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. Their pieces that they have in their team aren't very movable, and I don't know if when they do move them, if they're going to get anything good in return. Like Siakam, I feel like you kind of have to keep him. He was he was arguably your best player the whole time. But other guys, I don't know. There's not much to say there with like what they could really do. They're kind of just like in a weird position, especially with Tyrese Haliburton going down. So
you're not going to be able to move Siakam because if you do, you're not going to be able to get someone better. Like it's
Hmm.
just how it is. He's in a weird range as far as like talent goes, where he's like a step below those all NBA caliber guys. Like he's like a step below the maybe two steps below like the Giannis, Anthony Davis like range of like big forwards and big men.
Yeah.
You're not going to get those guys though. You're not going to be able to get those guys. You got to stick with a guy like Siakam. The Miles Turner situation with the 3-pointers not landing ever, like it felt like he didn't hit any. I think he hit one in Game 7, and it was all the announcers were kind of like losing their mind because it was like, oh, he hit a three. I can't believe he hit one. The shooting was terrible from him.
Yeah.
But I hate to steer it back to the Thunder, but I feel like we're kind of discrediting them a little bit. Like they completed an incredible season, 68 regular season wins. They won 2 major Game 7s against Denver and then against Indiana, and we're talking about Indiana. We're not talking about Oklahoma, and I get it. No one really likes to root for the easily the best team in the league. Like just if you look at all the numbers, if you look at the defense, the way they could just hound anybody, the way that they could figure out how to guard Jokic, how to guard any of the top 5 best players in the league, it's easy to root against them. But they also just completed. They kind of just forced themselves into the all-time conversation. No team has ever won a combined. No, not many have a combined 80 plus wins when you account for playoffs and regular season. It
Hmm.
just doesn't happen. But we're talking about the Pacers because Haliburton got injured, and that's terrible. And the injury is terrible, and it's not something to be to shy away from. We got to talk about it, obviously. But the Thunder had a great season, and as much as I didn't like to watch them, as much as I had problems with the way Shea played, you got to give them the credit where credit is due. They still won. They beat who was in front of them, and I think that's the biggest thing we can take away from this finals. And it's so weird. And I think the Thunder are going to make a run. I mean, they're so set up for the future. What do you make of the Thunder's future with all these draft picks and they have draft picks this year already?
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into the NBA draft a little bit later because that's
Yeah,
tonight. I mean, you'll see this if you're watching this after the NBA draft's already
yeah,
happened, but we're still going to give our takes regardless of that. But I would say, the Thunder are going to be really good for a good amount of time. They're going to be a dynasty team regardless of who leaves because they're going to be able to fill those spots with the draft picks and the moves that they can make. So it's going to be interesting to see what their team looks like next year. If it's going to look very similar to this year, or it's going to be somewhat new and revamped with like new starters and stuff like that. But I would totally agree with the fact that they're going to be a championship level team for the next 5 years or so because Shea is so young. And a lot of the guys in their team are really young. They're like one of the youngest teams who's ever won a championship before. I think they said that in their championship parade. One of their guys said that. So I mean, I think they're going to be really good, but I also think the West is going to be really good regardless. Houston's going to be a problem next year
yeah.
if they
We'll
can
we'll
mesh
get to
well
Houston, but
together.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but if they can mesh well together and like a couple other teams, so like if you put them in the East, they're going to be in the finals every single year
Oh
regardless,
yeah.
especially next year. So yeah, I would say they're definitely going to be a dynasty level team, but it all depends on like how their offseason goes. I'd say.
I mean I agree with you, and obviously we'll get to Houston, but the way the West is looking, obviously nothing's guaranteed in the West. I mean, the Lakers have new ownership, and who knows what they're going to do there. I mean, that they're going to make moves, but I don't know if the Thunder are going to make any huge moves. The only thing I've heard is that there's a possible Lou Dort move just to get ahead of the money stuff. Because Lou Dort is on one of the more expensive contracts on their team. I mean, he's not as much as Shea, but if they want to kind of get cute and they want to save some money, because the way that teams have to cut contracts, I mean, we saw the Celtics, a team we'll talk about later, but just trade 2 of their 5 best players, kind of on a whim almost, for much less value, in my opinion, overall, if you want to take a look at it. But I just don't know. Like the Thunder have 15 players under contract for next year. They don't have much wiggle room unless they
Mhm.
make trades, and I don't know like where you start. I mean, maybe it's a Hartenstein move. Maybe you want to kind of let Chet Holmgren get more touches and become that focal big man and get away from the Twin Tower system. But I don't really know where the Thunder go from there. But I don't know if you have any last second thoughts on the Thunder and what their offseason is going to look like.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who they move. I think Hartenstein's kind of like the first answer that comes to mind when you think of a person that's probably going to get traded away. Just because he wasn't amazing. He had a pretty good game 7, but he wasn't amazing overall. Um, And you got Chet too with that, and you can get other bigs. I mean, you got Jalen Williams on the team as well. Not the Jalen Williams, but the other one. He's another big that you can have there, and he's obviously way cheaper than Hartenstein is. And I don't know what his contract looks like, but regardless of that, there's going to be moves for OKC. They're not going to do nothing. I can tell you that. And if they do, they're going to do something. That's all I have to say. It could be a very minuscule move, but they're going to have to do that.
And I think we can shift it over to the Rockets side of this. Because before we even talk about the trade, I just want to say that I did call this trade 2 months ago on this podcast, talking to you, Carter. I said the exact thing that happened. I spoke it into existence. I said verbatim, if the Rockets lose in the first round and the offense is their problem, they will make a Kevin Durant trade in the offseason. And they did it, like 8 hours before Game 7, I think? Or maybe it was the day before. It was within 24 hours of Game 7. And all of a sudden, the biggest topic of discussion isn't the fact that we have a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It's the fact that Kevin Durant just got traded. And we were kind of blindsided by it. And before we talk about the actual trade package, there was obviously the Heat and the Raptors trade in the cards, and the Raptors didn't want to trade Jakob Poeltl for Kevin Durant. That's why they didn't get that. They were so worried about trading fucking Jakob Poeltl that they would not pull the trigger on a Kevin Durant trade. And then when you look at the Heat piece, they didn't want to trade like Hayward Highsmith or like anyone like that. They were looking at Andrew Wiggins in a couple seconds, and that was what they were willing to offer up. And now, I mean, the Houston thing. I'm gonna let you take the reins on this. You run the Sports Wire account. You talk about the trades, so I'll let you take the reins on explaining what just happened with the Houston trade.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the Rockets won this trade. I've talked to a bunch of my friends about it, and we broke them down yesterday. The 5 that have happened so far, and I think Houston probably has won it. Houston gave up Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this draft, which I'll get to after this, and then 5 second-round picks. Mm-hmm. So the Suns, being a team who has lost all their draft capital as they have made their moves in the past with Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. So that was good on their part that they got the picks back. But Jalen Green going into the Suns that already have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, and they've already experimented putting Booker at the 1, and it hasn't really worked out well.
Disaster.
Yeah. So, and they're already in an awful, awful, awful situation with Bradley Beal's contract too. So, it's a shine light at the end of a dark tunnel. That's all I gotta say to it. But I think the highlight of this trade from both sides is the number 10 pick in this draft. I myself have hyped up this draft to everyone that I've talked to, and if anybody asks me if I think it's going to be a good draft, 1,000%. I think there's going to be talent all throughout the board, first round and second round. So I think getting a top 10 pick in this draft for the Suns as a team who's looking to rebuild and hopefully restart, in my opinion, that's what they need to do, is a really good thing. And I think there's going to be a lot of value at that 10 spot. I'm really interested in how this draft's going to play out, and we'll talk about that later. But they are a team who either needs a big or a point guard, one of those two. And whoever they don't draft, they should trade for with the other piece they have on their team. And with that, I think, this is also a really good trade for the Rockets, though, because if you think about it, they didn't give up a whole lot. I mean, the pick hurts, but they've drafted so well these past couple of years. They have so much young talent. Same thing with Jalen Green. They have a lot of young talent already, and he's been inconsistent too. Dylan Brooks, he's a very good defender, but you can replace that pretty easily. He's already getting pretty old too. The 5 seconds, there's not much to say there. I mean, that's just kind of like an extra add-on, which it does help the Suns, but it's not as big of a deal for the Rockets as it is for the Suns. So I would say that this is a win-win for both sides, but it's definitely way more beneficial for the Rockets because KD, I saw a post about this. He's had instant impact on every single team he's played for in the NBA between the Supersonics, the Warriors, the Nets, and the Suns. He's averaged over 20 every single year that he's started there. So I think he's going to be a really quick impact guy, and I think he's going to help them out a lot. So that's my take on the trade.
Listen, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world for Houston to do something like that. I mean, I don't know if it's the right play, but when you really think about it, who else are they going to be able to get? I mean, it's it's a question of their offense. Durant is going to be the worst defensive player in that starting five, and that says a lot about how good that Rockets defense is. I mean, obviously Durant's not the same defender he was like 5 years ago, but
Hmm.
when you turn like 37, 38, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, as far as the Suns piece, this is going to be a terrible year if you're a Phoenix fan, and I know Phoenix fans. It's going to be bad for them. I'm going to hear a lot of complaining from them. Um, Booker's still incredible. I mean, it's just I think after he lost the finals to Milwaukee, I think he knew he wasn't going to get back to the finals with Phoenix. I think he knew that Chris Paul was only going to get older. He knew that Bridges was going to kind of grow out of the team and kind of need to build his own path, which he did. He's in New York now. He's doing a great job over there. And then you have Ayton, who really wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be when he was the number one pick. And now it's like, what do you do with Booker? I don't know if he gets traded. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, but I just don't know. Like, where do you even go with this team? Because you can't trade Beal. The only
No.
way with the Beal thing, I know there was murmurs a little bit about a Paul George for Beal swap at the deadline last year, and obviously nothing happened. That would be a nothing play, though. It would do nothing for either team, really.
Mhm.
Neither team would get really any better from that. And now you have Jalen Green, who can't play defense at all, alongside Booker, who doesn't really play defense, and then Bradley Beal, who just hasn't played defense, I don't think, in his career. And now it's like, what do you even do if you're Phoenix? I don't even know like where you would start if you're trying to rebuild, because you have to. You can't build anything around Booker at this point.
No.
But I think with a number 10 pick, I'd like to hear what you think they should do with their number 10 pick. I would probably think they would go for a bigger guy, a forward or a center, but I'm going to let you take the floor if you have an opinion on that.
Well, to speak to the pick, I would say if you hope to get lucky and get Derek Queen, I think Malawach from Duke is going to get picked higher than the 10 pick. But I really think you just got to try and get lucky with Derek Queen and get a good big. There's some other guys out there. Um, Nick Clifford, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, from Colorado State. He's another good forward. He could help them out. Carter Bryant from Arizona, another good guy. But I think you got to go big here. And to speak to the Booker thing, as a Booker fan, I'm not a Suns fan, I'm a Booker fan. I hope he
Mm.
gets traded somewhere else. And as a Suns, hopeful the Suns will get better, Booker there or Booker not, I think they should still trade him, and they should build around Jalen Green, which is tough to say because you just got to try and let him just do as good as he can. And you trade for a big with Booker, and you'll get a lot. Booker has so much value, and you can trade him to a team like the Pistons would totally make a trade offer for him, put him with Cunningham. They have to give up a lot, but the Suns, it's tough. I mean, you're just gonna waste away Booker's career, kind of like how Giannis is doing that in Milwaukee. So I don't know.
Yeah, the Giannis thing is just I still don't know why he hasn't tried to get out of there. I mean, I get it, he wants to be loyal, but
Hmm.
it's gotten to a point where it feels like it's not worth it for him. And I agree, though. I think you need to go big, and I think I'm not as familiar with the draft as you are. Obviously, you followed college basketball a lot better, but I just feel like there's no excuse. You need to go for a big guy, and I just don't know how long this is going to take for the Suns to rebuild. I mean, they were kind of a joke franchise for a couple years. They make the finals when they have a really great roster, and it feels like they're back to where they started. I just feel like they've had so much talent over the years. If you go way back, you go back to the '90s, even with Barkley, they had great teams and they just could never finish. They could never get there, and I don't know if it's a culture thing or what, but you have after the Barkley era, you have the Nash, Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion piece, and then they can't win. And now you have the Booker era, and they haven't won anything. They made the finals, and Giannis dropped 50 on them in Game 6. It's like what are we doing here? Like I don't know. I just feel like it's an ownership thing. I know there was a lot of talk with the ownership and the changing of hands that goes over there, but it's such a rough spot to be a Phoenix fan, and I can only really feel for them. I'm gonna pass it back to you because I know you're a huge Boston guy, and Boston made two really big trades. I'm gonna let you explain the packages to us and explain why each team did that.
All right. So to begin with, you have the first one with the Trailblazers. Um, Celtics give up Drew Holiday and receive um, Anthony Simons and two second round picks. So, you know, in my opinion, I think that's a good trade for Boston. It's it's an interesting one because you hate to give up Drew Holiday, but it's what they needed to do. And between these two trades, they're now under the second apron, which is their goal in this offseason. You hope to get under the first apron as well, but probably not going to happen with
Yeah.
keep if you're going to keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, which I'll talk about later because there's been a
Yeah.
lot of rumors. Um, but with that, it's a good that first one's a good one for Boston. The second one is a little more shaky, but to get off Drew Holiday's contract, I feel bad for Drew Holiday. I heard that he was kind of frustrated about where he had to go. But Anthony Simons is a young, promising 26-year-old guard who shot the three ball really well last year. There's a lot of questions, especially with his defense, playmaking, other things with his game. But next year is a perfect year for him to just build that, and a great Boston team that's known for really helping guys build up their careers and get better. So I think that that's really good for them. Moving on to the second trade here. This is a big three-team trade, and we have the Hawks, Celtics, and Nets. The Hawks receive Kristaps and a second-round pick from the Nets. The Celtics receive George Niang and a second-round pick from the Nets, and the Nets receive Terrence Mann and the 22nd pick in this draft from the Hawks. So I'll go one by one here, breaking down my winners and losers. I think that the Hawks, you kind of put them in the middle ground here. It all depends on Porzingis' health, and I think it's going to be interesting to see because he could fit in pretty well there. He's going to shoot the ball well. He's going to be a good big for Trae Young, and Trae Young thrives with the good bigs, obviously. So I don't know. It's all up to his health, and I think it's a very risky move for them. But in a sense, you just see them give up George Niang, and Terrence Mann. It's not a lot. It's not a huge deal for them. But then moving on to the Celtics, people are a little bit. They're not super excited about getting. It's pretty lackluster. You're giving up Kristaps Porzingis and you're getting George Niang and a second back, which I'll say, a lot of people don't like George Niang in the NBA. I personally have nothing wrong with him. I think he's
Right.
actually a pretty good NBA player. I think he can do some pretty good things for the Celtics when he's there with them. And the second round pick is nice, but this trade for the Celtics fans, you just got to be happy that we're under the second apron. That would have killed us if we didn't get under it, and I knew we would have because Brad Stevens is probably the best GM in the NBA in my opinion. But
Mm.
regardless of the fact, it's just more of like a salary type of trade here. But I think the Nets are the winners of this trade. The Nets have, I believe, 5 picks in the first round
Yep.
of the draft tonight, and it's going to be interesting to see because are they going to hold on to all the 5 picks or are they going to make a trade? I'm not sure. And they get Terrence Mann as well. So, those two trades alone are interesting for the Celtics, but also the teams that are involved in them as well.
I think if you're Brooklyn, you can just hold on to the picks and just see what you can get. I mean, Brooklyn's in a really bad spot right now. They have pieces. They have like the Cam Thomas thing, and that's good. That's awesome. You need to see what you can get. You're not going to trade up and get a top 5 pick with all those draft picks. You're not going to do anything really in the market right now. You don't want to. It's not like you want to compete. You don't want to trade for a guy that's going to help you win now. You kind of want to build your roster up. So I think getting those 5 guys, getting them some minutes in the summer league, maybe some G League minutes too. See where you stand with those guys and just go. I mean, you gotta be patient with this. The biggest problem with a lot of GMs is they want to rush into it and they want to build a team fast. We saw with the Thunder, you just need to be patient and you need to let the problems kind of fix themselves. Figure out who's not working. Like Josh Giddey didn't work with the Thunder's overall offense, and they made the adjustment. They traded him for Caruso, which was one of the best trades that Presti ever made. That was super underrated, but that made a big difference. Caruso was a huge piece of that Thunder lineup. And then as far as the Boston thing goes, objectively, it's a smart move. Like objectively, like just to save all that money. Holiday was only getting older. I think he's 35 right now, and he's only going to get worse. He had a pretty bad playoffs, all things considered, as someone who, not to flex, but I did go to a Celtics-Knicks playoff game. I just want to say that. The legendary Luke Cornett game, where he had like 8 blocks or something like that. It felt like he had 20, but the Holiday thing, I get it. I mean, he looked kind of sluggish. He looked like he wasn't super proactive in that game, at least, especially in person. You can tell a huge difference. And then Porzingis, I was never high on Porzingis during his Boston time because I just didn't think he was aggressive enough. He's 7'3" and he can't get double-digit rebounds. To me, that doesn't make any sense. Like I just can't wrap my head around why that makes sense at all. And even when he was with Dallas, as someone who was obviously a huge Dallas fan, I rooted for him, but I just felt like he could cut the mustard. I mean, he just wasn't doing his job. And now he's going to be with Trey, and I don't know how that's going to work. I don't think they're really going to compete. I mean, maybe they will in this East, but I mean, it's a little more complicated than that with Boston. Now you're going to roster that doesn't have Tatum for the whole year. And we can talk about the Brown stuff, but it's like, are they really going to trade Jaylen Brown now? It's like I just don't understand. You would have to get a really good package right now.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine that. Now you have Horford, who's I assume he's going to come back, and it's not going to be very good, and I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. But now, like, what is your lineup? Is it like Sam Hauser and you have Pritchard, and that's cool, but like, is that going to get you 45 wins in the East still? Like, I don't know. I want to get your take on the Jaylen Brown thing though, because I know it's something you want to talk about.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Brad Stevens is not going to give up Jaylen Brown unless he's getting a real good package. I know he's high on the Tatum and Brown duo, and I think a lot of Celtics fans are too. I've seen some insanely good trade packages though that have been rumored to go around. Like there's a really good San Antonio one where it involves the number 2 pick in this draft, Stephon Castle, who was Rookie of the Year, Devin Vassell, and I think some more picks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to say no to that trade. I'm not going to lie. The only reason I'd say no, honestly, is because Jaylen Brown, I like him too much to give him away, but that's such a good trade, and that's so good for the future too. But it's just like it's so hard to do that. Oh my God, it's really difficult to even think about these trades right now because there's so many good ones out there, and I would totally say yes, but it's Jaylen Brown. Derek White is in the same boat. I think Brad Stevens wants to keep him around. He's definitely another piece you can build around. He's in like a little middle region when it comes to age in the NBA. Well, he'll still definitely be effective for a good 5 more years or so. So, it's just interesting to see. I personally don't think that the Celtics are going to make a big move that involves the 2 of those guys. Tatum's definitely going to stay. Hopefully. But Hauser, I think he's next on the trade block, I'd say. And personally, I don't think that Brad Stevens will walk into a season with either Neemias Queta or Luke Cornett starting out of the center spot. Cornett had a pretty good run at the end of the finals, but interesting to see. I don't know what they're going to do. Sam Hauser has a pretty bad contract for his level of play, but yeah, that's kind of just my overall thought process on it.
Yeah, I don't think they're trading Brown. I just think we can get that out of the way. If they trade Brown, I'm fine with being wrong on that. I just don't know if that's going to happen at this point. I think Hauser would probably be the next guy up to get traded, but we'll see. I mean, the draft still has to happen, and while we're filming, there could be a trade that goes on. I might check my phone right after I finish speaking.
I've been trying to check it a little bit. So.
Yeah, I don't blame you because we're in. There's 2 times in the NBA season where trades like this are bound to happen. It's the 3 days to 3 days after the draft, and then it's like the last 3 days before the deadline. Those are the times where you got to check your phone like every 10 minutes to make sure nothing's going on. And right now, anything's bound to happen. By the time we're done recording, another trade may go down.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the Boston thing, I think we knew this was going to happen, at least for the last year. When the new ownership showed up and Boston got sold, and now we're talking about, they're going to have to make moves, and then every Boston fan's like, as far as casual fans go, they're like, no, they're not going to have to. We're going to keep the same team. Why don't we just give them more money? It's like, that's not how that works. But it is on the NBA for not explaining how salary works to the average Joe. Because if you don't do your own research, you're never going to figure it out. Like, you're going to be so confused. Like, everyone's like, what does a second and first apron even mean? I get it. Right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be a really weird time, especially if you're a Celtics fan. You're going to be looking at a totally different team. And obviously, as we both live in New England, we're both surrounded by Boston, whether we like it or not. It's going to be some really tough conversations with people when they start asking us about what's going on with the Celtics. It definitely is. I mean, I haven't gotten to talk to anyone about it really yet, but we will see. I mean, this is something you have to feel out. But for our last segment, I want to transition to the NBA draft, which is going on tonight. And obviously, when this comes out, this will probably be a couple days after. I'm going to say Friday. This will probably come out. So I just want to get your take. Is there any sleeper pick that you're kind of looking out for on this draft, or what are we thinking?
My big time sleeper pick in this whole entire draft is Jeremiah Fears,
Yeah.
which I might be. I gotta double check this before I make this. He might have actually gone back to college. I want to make sure of that.
I have
But
him on my mock draft still, honestly.
okay,
As from CBS, I have him on my mock draft. He's going. CBS has him at fifth, at five right now.
okay, then
So I
I
mean,
believe he's still in the draft. But he is he's legit. I mean, you watch his game that he had in um March Madness. He's a one and done in the March Madness, obviously, but I mean, he played phenomenal. He's a really good player. I think overall, I saw someone give accolades to each of the guys in the draft, and best handles in the draft was given to him. I mean, he just he has the ball on the string, and he's a quick turnaround for any team that needs a guard. And I feel like there are a lot of teams that are in the top 10 that are willing to draft him, but I feel like he's going to slip because the guards in this draft are so good. Between Dylan Harper, him, Trey Johnson, Liam McNeely could be picked pretty high because of his shooting upside. Con Knipple, a lot of those guys is our guard forwards that can play similar positions, and he's a little bit undersized for his position as of now in the NBA. But
yeah,
I think he's going to be really good on any team that he plays for, and I'm looking out for where he goes.
I think that's a really good pick. I don't know where he's gonna go because he's one of those guys that where I read the draft the mock drafts, and some people have him going at 4, and some people have going in the double digits, like 14. It's like you don't know what's gonna happen. We're not gonna know what's gonna happen until the draft starts. And then you have the Cooper Flag piece. We know he's going 1, and then you have the Dylan Harper, and then after that he's kind of up in the air. Where's Ace Bailey gonna go? Is he gonna go 5 to Utah, which I think is possible. I think Danny Ainge loves athletic guys that are kind of projects. If you look at Jaylen Brown, when he drafted Brown was a project. Brown wasn't the well-rounded guard that he is now. He drafted Rondo in 2006, and Rondo was a very big project. He couldn't shoot the ball at all, but Ainge still took the chance on him. I think Ace Bailey's the type of guy that Ainge loves, and I don't know if it's going to pan out, but I think that if you see Ace Bailey go to Utah, which I don't know if he's going to like that, but I think that if you see that happen, don't be surprised. I just want to say that and be very clear. As far as a sleeper, I think we can look at Walter Clayton. I know it's very easy to say because he was on the extremely talented Florida team who went super deep and they were always competitive. But if you want to talk about a guy that can create his own shot still in the NBA, there's not many guys in the draft who can do that. I mean, you could look at Flagg and Harper and all that. Clayton's in the 20s in some of these mock drafts, and I'm like, I don't get it. Am I missing something? I get he's a little undersized. I get that piece, but it's like, if you can create your own shot in the NBA, which I think you can, that's more valuable than anything else. Other than being able to be a hawk on defense, if you can create your own shot in the NBA where in a tough defensive time, I don't get it. I don't understand how are some of these European players rated higher than him. I feel like there's a little bit of the European bias that we saw for over the past couple drafts where some teams were just taking a chance on the European guy who didn't have a lot because of guys like Luka, guys like Giannis, Jokic, those guys that kind of are on sneaky picks. And then you have the Dragon Benders of the world where it's they took him because he was European and they thought that he could pan out because he played against grown men in Europe. That's not always how that works. If you have the skills or you don't. Walter Clayton, he has the skills. And I'd love to see him compete on a good team. I think that he can make a difference right away. But I also like Con Knuppel. Knuppel, whatever.
Yeah.
Con Knuppel. I love him. I think he's great. He had a great sit-down interview with Bill Simmons. That was a great podcast. I actually love that. And he's another guy that I think can compete. And I think if you put him on a team like Philly, where they kind of need what he has, which is spacing and ball handling and ball control, he's going to succeed 100%. I'm gonna pass it back to you if you want to chime in about more draft stuff.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about what you said because you had some really good takes there. And what I will say is I don't agree with it, but I think the big thing with why is Walter Clayton not higher up? I mean, he was the best player on the team who won the national championship. Is his age. And I completely disagree with people who think
we saw with Dalton Connect. We saw with
exactly. And he fit his role with the Lakers and he shot the ball very well. So It's weird. He's a little bit undersized, I guess. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". But I think he's gonna be really good in the NBA. And I saw this. I don't know if you've seen it, but I think he had like a short like interview. Someone walked up and asked him if you had to have dinner with anybody in the world, three people, who would it be? And he said Eric Spoelstra, Rick Ross, and Kobe Bryant. So people think it's funny and think that's like a sign that maybe he's gonna go to the Heat. But I mean, he could fit there. He could fit in any team who
He's
needs a
projected to
shooter.
go there on a lot of
Then
drafts.
then
He's projected
then I
20.
think he should go there then. I think that would be a good spot for him. I like that pick from you too. I also like Connor Knuckle. He's gonna be good. But overall, I think it's gonna be a very interesting draft.
I mean, I'm just genuinely just excited to see that the Cooper Flag finally get drafted to Dallas. After the year that I've had as a Mavericks fan, losing the finals, the whole team coming back, us upgrading the offseason, then we trade Luka, and then we get the first pick. It's been a roller coaster as a Dallas fan. I don't think anyone's had a crazier last full year than Dallas fans as far as sports fans go. And we're gonna finally see Dallas have a real franchise cornerstone that's a cannot miss prospect. With Luka, obviously he was as great as he was, but he had questions about him going to the draft. I remember it very well. I remember people saying he was slow, his shot wasn't going to get off in time. A lot of the same stuff they said about Larry Bird, actually. But Cooper Flag, no one's really questioning how good he is. That's the thing. And maybe there's more pressure on him now that people are kind of just accepting that he's going to be great, but I think when you're like 6'8", 6'9" like that, you can kind of do a little bit of everything. I don't think he has many like major holes in his game. I just think he's a can't miss prospect, and I'm so excited to watch him. And then you have the Dylan Harper piece where it's like he's another guy that's like, if Flag wasn't in this draft, he would easily be the consensus number one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, how often does that happen? Where you have two
Not
guys that
often.
are so much better than the rest. These guys are up here, and then you have the rest. That I don't remember the last time that's happened for the life of me, where it's like you have the two guys that cannot miss, and they're gonna pan out. I just believe that they're gonna pan out, assuming no one gets injured. It's going to be a new era for basketball. Now you have all the new owner stuff, and I don't know if you have any takes on the new owners as far as like the Lakers. I know that's the big one. Now they're owned by the same Dodger people. I don't know if you have any takes on the new owner era of the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, you quickly look at the Lakers, but also the Celtics have a new owner as well. And I
Yep.
saw some stuff about him. Obviously, I'm gonna see more about that because I'm a Boston fan, but he seems super enthusiastic about it. Lakers ownership, that's a good change for them as well. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun to see. And I feel for all like the people who were big fans during the 2010s and stuff like that. I was obviously a fan then too, but you have to adapt if you're gonna want to enjoy the NBA to your fullest. And I feel like it's a perfect time to. The draft has much talent, new ownership, coaches might be bouncing around soon. You never know what can happen, and it's just that's basketball, and you got to be ready for that, and it's gonna be interesting, I would say.
And I think to kind of put a bow on this is like the best draft we've had in a long time, just top to bottom.
Mm.
When you look at last year's draft, I feel like there was way less excitement about it. I mean, Alex Sarr, he's on Washington, so no one's really watching Wizards games. He was like considered the most talented player, but I think if you put him in this draft, he's like the sixth or seventh best player. Like it's just one of those things where it's like some years you're gonna have a great draft and some years you're not. Like it's very simple. It reminds me a lot of like the 2006 draft, where it was right in between the Chris Paul and the Kevin Durant draft, and nobody really remembers who was a part of that draft. And I understand. I think it's just one of those things where now we have one of the best drafts, and then last year it was just. I mean, yeah, you got Jared McCain out of the draft who got injured early, and you have Dalton Connect, and you had a lot of sleepers. That's cool. This is the year, though. Like, if you want to like lock in with the draft and you want to watch, this is the year to watch, and this is the year to pay attention to these rookies, because these rookies are so fascinating to me. But I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Carter, do you have any last second thoughts before we wrap up for today?
I'm
I
gonna
know
be a
we
little
talked
bit
about a lot.
I'm gonna be a little bit frustrated because I actually have a game tonight during the draft at 8 for basketball, but I'm definitely gonna be second the game's over, just check my phone, see what's going on. Um,
Yep.
I'm interested to see what the trades are going to be like because I don't think there's no way there's not going to be a single trade at all tonight when it comes
Oh,
to
there will
the
be.
draft orientated, but also throughout the day. Um, I'll let you actually check your phone real quick if you want to see if anything else has gone down since you've been
Oh yeah.
talking. But overall, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what goes on. throughout this whole NBA offseason. This is the best time of the year for guys who are interested in trades. But yeah, I'm just like it's exciting and it's a new era for basketball and it's perfect. Um, you know, round back to the finals, you gotta feel bad for Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers overall. But OKC deserve that very much. And
Mm.
yeah, it's just gonna be a good time for basketball, I'd say.
The only thing that happened was Fred VanVleet got extended.
I saw
So
that as well.
that's okay. So that's the only thing that we got so far. I just checked Twitter, but no, I agree with what you said. I mean, we talked a lot about a lot of topics today. And if it makes you feel any better, I'm going to be working during the
Mm,
draft. I have work from like 6 to 9 tonight, which is like so stupid.
yeah, that's tough.
But it's fine. I mean, I'm gonna be checking my phone the entire time anyway, so I don't really care. But yeah. So Carter, I really appreciate you being here, and for all the watchers and all the listeners at home, thank you for tuning in. I've been your host Connor Lewis, signing off.